The Plein Air Easton Podcast is brought to you by the Avalon Foundation, enriching the lives of those on the Eastern Shore of Maryland through the arts. Visit avalonfoundation.org for details on events, performances, and educational programming offered throughout the year. Today's episode is sponsored by JFM Enterprises, providing distinctive ready-made and custom frames and moldings to the trade since 1974. Visit jfm.net to view their catalog of designs.
I just have this talking paralysis. It's just
I think
so
you sound great.
bizarre.
You sound, look, if we're going to be interviewing each other,
I know, and I start thinking about the audience, and then I just get gripped with fear, and I'm like, they're gonna judge me. The judgment's coming.
that's because you don't ever talk like that in your life.
In my head, you don't know what's in my head.
You're not,
Thank God.
You don't want to be in there, Tim.
so we're interviewing each other then? Is that what we're doing?
I guess so. I mean, who knows it better than us? Who knows us better than us?
It's time.
Yeah, it was time. It was time to bring back the podcast, and who better to start off the first episode but us. We're the ones we started it all.
You started it. I guess what we're going to say too is who the heck would want to practice with us like this? This is a good warm up.
I would also say I love the clarity of your voices in my headphones, and I think it sounds really good.
It's just because you missed us, Tim. We've missed you too.
That sounds really good, both your voices. So,
Let's talk.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've all got our own mics now.
Because we're better than back.
We're better in stereo. What is this called again?
Plein Air Easton Podcast.
Yeah.
Of course it is. Plein Air Easton Podcast. Let's do it.
I'm Tim Wagon for the Plein Air Easton Podcast. Welcome, everyone.
I'm Marie Nuthall.
And I'm still Jess Bellis. Who knew?
Still Jess Bellis. Since, I mean, we're all a bit different people we were talking about, you know what I mean? Since the pandemic. And we're here to talk about Plein Air Easton, a little bit what happened last year.
Yeah.
And what's going to happen this year. And I think there was some growth, right? In tough times, you made some changes last year. And maybe we want to get into that with the whole organization a little bit, because it was actually really an interesting for the arts organization to do last year, the stuff that we did.
Tim is just right down to business. He just asked a really hard question right out of the gate. I thought we were gonna warm up a little bit. And, I'm like, oh my gosh, he is just hitting it hard. I know.
Don't you have it's my pandemic revolution, man? No, I'm not holding back ever again.
He's just going straight at it. No, I guess what I would just start by saying is it's been a while since we have sat around a table and had a conversation. It's certainly been a while since we recorded a podcast. And as we have been thinking about how to re-enter and who our guests should be, we sort of landed on the notion that we maybe have some stuff to say. We got to catch some people up in terms of what's going on here and what we've been up to. So that's how we have found ourselves talking to ourselves.
Right.
We're really great special guests.
Yeah, and it's really hard to do an interview with people that you actually know what they're kind of going to say. You know what I mean? Although a lot of this I don't know. So what about? Let's talk about last year. A little bit last year, and then we'll get into what's going on this year. For people out there listening, there's an interesting story that the Avalon went through last year. I mean, and it is. I remember a lot of it. We were meeting on Zoom. And which was weird enough. I mean, I remember the meltdown Nick had on Zoom 3 weeks into the pandemic. Remember when I was as a Nick, look into the camera. No, don't look actually into the lens, Nick, and look at me. I was like, dude, it's going to be okay. And I mean, there was a lot of it was a crazy, crazy time.
Online therapy.
Huh?
A little online therapy.
Well, and then, but then tell everybody what we did. I mean,
No, I mean, I think that we don't need to get into all of the things that the Avalon Foundation did as a family, as an organization, and for our community to help build community. But, as far as Plein Air Easton, it wasn't that long after the pandemic started that the questions started coming. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? What are you going to do? What are you going to do?
That did happen right away.
Yeah, and, it was difficult for us to make decisions because there were so many events that were even deeper into the fall that were calling it. That they were saying that locally there was no Festival of Trees, there was not going to be a waterfowl festival, that we're calling it in its entirety. And, meanwhile, we were trying as an organization to say, okay, well, what can we do? Like, is there anything that we actually can do? And we kept asking ourselves that over and over again. I mean, you talk about Zoom, where I think that Plein Air Easton from last year was planned is like on my back porch.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like that we were outside all the time, combinations of us talking through, how do we get to yes? And, we landed on a really successful year, a Plein Air Easton that looked nothing like Plein Air Easton has looked before, but, achieved some primary goals and, has really informed some new best practices and ideas for this year.
Well, Marie, what was it like for you on the porch when you were talking about these things? Trying to figure out what you can do as the, Jess and Al are the executive directors and the leaders from the top, but you are the person who has to put Plein Air Easton in go mode. What was it like for you?
Right. So, even though I am, for the majority of the year, I'm a part-time employee, but Plein Air Easton is planned all year round. So even when the pandemic became a very real issue in all of our lives, there were already things in place. So it was like it was a hard stop to everything. And I think trying to integrate, everything that was going on and to try and be open to what possibilities that like Jess said, like we could do. And so we basically had a blank slate and had to start with a blank slate. Can we ask any of the competition artists if they want to come? They're under no obligation to come. How do we fashion that? All the questions became different. All the questions became more important, and they took into consideration the safety of everybody that was participating, including the staff of the Avalon Foundation and the community and the artists. We
always joke internally that there are no arts emergencies. It's how we try to keep our stress level down. We're not working in shock trauma. Like, people's lives are not on the line because of like whether or not a concert happens or not exactly. But I think that all of a sudden we felt like we were making decisions that were about public safety and were about the safety of our artists and the collectors community, and everything felt so real and serious. So who cried the most? Me or you or Tim?
Well, I can remember, going into because we everybody, it was a much different event last year, and going into the opening night, I came in and I was in the building, and I was in there for 5 minutes, and I was freaking out because like you're not supposed to be in a building with people you don't know, and making some comment, and it drew tears from Jess, like, because we were going to be in that building, for 15 hours for 7 days, and we had it all to look forward to. But talk about the success of the event.
Yeah, no, again, I guess, so many teachable things that came out of last year, and I guess even more specifically, some of the things that we knew that we really needed to make sure that we incorporated this year. Like, I think that the big sort of downer for me last year was that because we did such a good job at keeping everybody sort of socially distanced and separate, like the camaraderie felt kind of gone and disconnected amongst the staff, amongst the artists. It's like I felt like there were artists who said I never really saw other artists.
Yeah, that did happen.
We're going to work so hard this year to make it, still feel safe, but really kind of get everybody back together. We're back, Tim.
I know.
We're back. It's crazy. Like, I did not think I was going to find myself back sitting in this seat. I certainly didn't think for this year's festival that we would be so incredibly game on, but like, it is game on, and I think that the competition is going to be more exciting than ever. I think that our events are going to be more fun than ever. Like I said, I was joking before we started recording, like I'm feeling this little sensation inside me, and I'm like, oh my God, is that optimism? Because it's like has been lost for so long. I'm like, wait a second, maybe I'm not having a heart attack, but like my heart is fluttering a little bit. Like, what is that? You know.
Now, okay, so we're going to get into the
specifics. Is that where you want to go?
Well,
what do you want to do?
But I'm going to ask a question leading into that. Before we get into what's going to happen this year, an artist, if you're out there listening while you're doing your laundry, you're doing a painting, this is great information for you. And
I think people paint and do their laundry at the same time.
I bet they do.
I could name a few that I'm pretty sure do that.
And for other people who are casual listeners or just interested in the arts, I think you're going to learn about a little bit about like what organization goes into an event like this. My first question is to get into is attention to detail. I have just been so impressed and learned so much over the last, 8 years since I really started paying attention to it. I've been here for 20 years and I never really paid attention to like what exactly goes into a lot of these events. And your guys, Jess, particularly you, and Marie, you seem to fall right into it as well. I don't work with you all the time, but attention to detail. Is it good for your life or can it ruin your life? That is the question.
It kind of rules my life. I'm all about the details. I really am.
Yeah.
They're important.
I think that like you have to know where you're headed. But I think that you're right, Tim, that I think one of my strong suits is figuring out the steps. I'm like, okay, Marie,
where did this
has
come
to
from?
happen, and this has to happen, and this has to happen, and then this has, and then we're gonna get to this end.
Where did that come from? I don't want to get this crazy conversation.
I think that this is a personality thing. I think that is actually why our organization works so well as a team, is that we have different kinds of like creative thinkers and tactical thinkers. People who are more about the step by step and in the details. And does it ruin your life? Certainly. I think that we had. What are big lessons that I learned last year?
Sure.
One of them was to say I don't know. I think that you talk about the details, and I've known the details of Plein Air Easton for so long, down to the real specifics, and someone would be like, here's the situation that has presented itself in this moment in your newly invented competition, or it wasn't a competition last year, it was more of an exhibition, what about this? And I would be like, I really don't know the answer to that question. I have to take a beat, and I don't know everything. We don't know all the details, and I think from a personality standpoint, that was really teachable.
I think in my view, details they enhance the experience. So the more attention I can give to the details, I just feel like it's gonna shine through in a better experience.
No, I think
for the artist
people,
and everybody.
You can do a major renovation, and people come in and they're like, "Oh, it seems so much cleaner in here." But it's the sum of all of those parts that make it feel like such an elevated experience.
Yeah,
for sure,
absolutely. Down to the takeaways, to just every aspect of the festival experience. The details matter.
And you guys are so immersed into the event.
And Plein Air Easton, one of its benchmarks has always been excellence. So it's we have a high bar to reach every time. It's can you do better? Can you do better? Can you do better? I think is a question that we're constantly asking ourselves. It's a culture of the event. Mm-hmm. So that the details are involved in that, like Marie said, because without the sum of those high details, how do you get to excellence?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Exactly. And you're not going to stay in a position of excellence if you let that go.
I feel like in the old world, maybe Marie and I would have high-fived in that moment, but we're still a little bit reticent to touch each other.
Yeah, it's a little weird to touch each other. Although we are around a table, we are within 6 feet of each other, which for the first time. And that was actually a question that was asked before we came in. Do you want a socially distant interview, or you want a round table? And Jess, I think you said
Well, we all rock the vaccinations.
I was going to say,
too.
I sent the vaccine emojis. I was like, vaccine emoji.
I didn't even know that was a thing.
See, we still need to get out more. No, I mean, like, I guess before we segue into like what the heck is going to happen this year, like we can just say thank you, science. I mean, again, I did not really think that we were going to find ourselves here. I certainly didn't think that we would be in a place where we were so game on. I mean, one of the things that has been, as we talk about Plein Air Easton 2021, Marie and I spent a lot of time in plans that are also not going to happen now because we don't need them anymore. We can go back to some of our like original stuff. I was saying before this interview, it's like in the last 2 weeks, we've gone from like driving our car down the road to pedal to the metal in terms of, adding things back into the festival and competition that we didn't think were going to happen. And, I think that we can really say, thank you to everybody who went and got themselves vaccinated and are continuing to get themselves vaccinated. I'm certainly very grateful for the high vaccination rates in Talbot County and in the state of Maryland. I mean, knock on wood, I hope that this is a sign of a really great and prosperous summer for everybody.
Yeah.
It's true, though. When we started, kind of like the theme to all of the organizing of the details in the beginning just said, let's start from a place where the plans are more restricted. We're just going to go with the safety of the plans first because it's easier to do that and then add stuff than it is to start with no restrictions and scale back.
Okay. All right. But that's
Well,
that's
I guess
great.
we talk about tidbits for organizers. I think that that's something that can transcend the pandemic too. I think that really being goal-oriented and saying, what can you actually do? What can you guarantee? And starting from that point, it's kind of the opposite of saying like, what's the biggest, baddest, most awesome thing, but just like really starting from like, what can we do? And then thinking about how to grow it from there. I think that is how we were able to be successful last year. And it's certainly how I'm seeing us able to toggle to bigger this year, is that we found solutions about how to still have a great event, even if we do have to, and even if we do have to toggle it back this year, I think that we are still positioned to be able to do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, again, that's a great segment for people who are into organization and applies across many businesses in terms of that, or careers or professions or whatever. Okay, so now let's get into a little bit of what's going to happen this year with the festival. Jess, you kind of said, hey, game back on. Is it really game back on? And lead the way.
When we had our stakeholder conversations earlier in our planning cycle, we said, what is the one thing that Plein Air Easton has to bring this year? And our stakeholders overwhelmingly said, great art. I think people are really ready to come back in and buy. I think they've been staring at the same junk on their walls for a long time, and what they want to see is really amazing artwork. And so we immediately started making sure that we had plans in place to provide artists with a lot of flexibility and time to be able to create really amazing competition paintings. And, we're proud to be back in the Academy Art Museum, which is an accredited actual museum that has had a major renovation. And I'm going to tell you, the artwork that is produced as part of our competition this year, I have no doubt in my mind it is going to be spectacular.
Yeah, that exhibit that goes in there.
Yeah, it's because, even the exhibition space is going to elevate the work. But I think a big change this year is we're not restricting the painting geography quite as tightly as we have in the past. This might be something you're learning right now.
I am learning this.
In the past, we've sort of said, okay, for these days, artists can paint all across the midshore. Then they're restricted to just be in Talbot County. Now they just have to be in Easton. Mm-hmm. In part because we didn't want everybody traveling around that much. We're saying, once your canvases are stamped, you can paint anywhere in Talbot County the whole time.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And so, I think that's really, that could also improve the quality of some of the competition pieces, because it means if you want to go and really work on a study down on Tillman Island every day, every morning, and then, really bang out a painting after several practice attempts down there, you now have the time and space to be able to really do that. And there's so many different plein air painters, and from over the years, they paint small, they paint big, they paint fast, they paint slow, they go to the same place for several days in a row. They sketch for 3 days beforehand. And so I'm just hoping that this gives them a lot of flexibility to be able to really nail the competition painting that they want to.
Jess, you described the whole sort of like plight of the painter there so well. Marie, what does all that mean to you?
So one of the grand slams of last year was the incorporation of some of the smaller communities in Talbot County into the more substantial exhibit. So this year we have devised an arts road trip.
Oh yeah,
yeah, bring it.
Get ready, the Great American Country
Art,
Classic
Plein Air
Road Trip.
Easton Road
I think
Trip.
we need to make a soundtrack for it. That's another idea that I've had.
Oh yeah, that would be
I'll submit
awesome.
songs, exactly. That's not the soundtrack.
Yeah, I'm
feeling this.
definitely sure that's not it. We did, in an effort to spread collectors and artists out last year, we sent them to the little towns, and we actually made them sign up for a day that they would be painting down there, so people knew that they would see their art that day. So from the July 11th to the 14th this year, we will have satellite gallery exhibits in Oxford, in St. Michael's at the Chesapeake Bay Maritime Museum, and in Tillman Island at the Wilder Hotel.
Mm-hmm.
The Oxford exhibit, if I can backtrack, is at St. Paul's Church, which is on the South Morris Street.
Yeah, the newly renovated church.
Yes,
down there.
yes. Mm-hmm. And then we will have our main gallery here in Easton, which is known as the Plein Air Easton Library in the Waterfowl building, is going to also be open all during the week. So artists have the opportunity, they can hand in artwork that they completed that day at any one of those locations. And then we're also going to be promoting that so that collectors and visitors who want to see what's going on in Plein Air Easton, this year they don't have to wait till the end of the week to the final weekend to see art. We'll have all these little exhibits in these communities around Talbot County for from July 11th to the 14th.
So that's Marie, like getting really deep into the details, like you were talking about. But like, it's okay. But
No,
like,
that's good.
systemically,
That's my jam.
No, but listen, like here is the big thing that is like blowing my mind, because we've been doing this for 17 years. I don't know. Do we count last year as a year?
Yeah,
I mean,
Yes,
yeah.
it was.
No,
It was
actually,
a year.
You don't have to count your birthday last year.
It was this.
Yes. But like from a competition standpoint, and I think that Plein Air Easton actually has two competitions. It has the artists who are competing against each other for sales and for prizes, and it also has buyers who are competing against each other for the paintings that they want. Right? Like,
Yeah,
it is
that
a
happens.
competitive environment here
People
in Easton.
people get mad.
and we are
yes.
like just mixing up the rules like crazy with this, because again, what artists used to be able to do is we weren't taking any of their paintings until basically the day before the collector's party.
Exactly.
So, a certain strategy would be, while some artists would concentrate on their two competition work and kind of paint some other paintings for fun and for sales, there were certainly plenty of painters who just go out and paint every day, and at the end look at their body of work and try to decide which paintings are their strongest that they want to submit for sales and for competition. Well, we're turning that all on its head with this new with these new satellite galleries and driving tour that's out there, in that, artists who participate in this competition are going to have the opportunity to exhibit and sell right out of the gate and in multiple places. And so I think that, like, if I were an artist, I would have to really put some careful thought in terms of how is that going to change the cadence of how I'm painting. Should I knock some tiny ones out there fast in hopes of getting some quick sales? What if you're really hot and your paintings are selling at these satellite galleries? What can you do to make sure that you have inventory for the big weekend, the ultimate weekend that's always in Easton? I think that it's going to put a whole lot more art out into our community, and artists are going to have to be really thoughtful about sort of how and when and what they're painting and how they're turning it in, while not losing focus that they better be working on some pretty kick-butt competition paintings. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no,
and
yeah.
We're making it easier in that they can turn it in closer to their host family housing with these satellite galleries. I'm going to tell you, each satellite gallery is unique and has benefits and is going to have places for artists to get some respite and information. It's going to be a great way for people across the community to learn about Plein Air Easton. But I'm just so interested to see, like, how fast are these painters going to hit the ground running? You know, are they going to have? It's going to be hard to restart your creativity after, you know, not being in the competition circuit for so long. I mean, I certainly know I'm having a hard time being myself right now. So you know, I can only imagine how that translates into art. As we have guests between now and our actual event, I hope we're asking them that question, like, oh my gosh, do you have creative energy in you anymore? Like, what is happening to you?
Yeah, no, I think it's a really interesting question.
But it also is going to change how buyers think about the competition as well, because while the competition paintings will still be reserved for sale at the collector's party, again, there's going to be a whole lot more artwork out there for sale on display for a whole lot more days. And if you're somebody who wants to buy your first Tim Kelly or wants to find the new artist that is at Plein Air Easton and see their work and get a piece of that artwork, you really are going to have to, like, be on your game and be looking and be paying attention online and be, you know, exploring Talbot County to be able to see this artwork as it leads into our big weekend. Does that make sense? But that's like a huge change if you think about it.
That is a really big change if you think about it, because it'll also affect the library and how many paintings are in the library ultimately. But I want to talk about these buyers here real quick. Marie, how can the buyers go see this artwork weekly? What's the promo coming up that you love for the All American Road Trip?
The typical tour route, let's say, would be to, of course, stop in at, or maybe start in Easton. If you're so inclined, stop at the Waterfowl building, the Plein Air Library, stop there, drive down to Oxford, view the exhibit there, jump on the ferry, drive your car over to the Chesapeake Bay Maritime Museum, take in the exhibit there, and then head down to Tillman, view the exhibit that's on view in the evening, maybe have a cocktail, take in the sunset, and do the loop every day.
This is called right, and this is the Great American, or this is a Country Classic. I think you renamed it Country Classic. Great American Country Classic.
Art Road Trip.
Now,
Trip.
Jess, and you guys can both go off this. Why would you get in your car with someone and do this?
Well, you know, our vision, and we've talked about this, is it's like, this is a time of reconnection.
Yeah.
You know, there's so many friends and family members that I have not seen in 18 months who I usually see at least once a year or hang out with. So what do I think about this road trip? I think it's a perfect opportunity for our patrons who live around here to call up their friend from DC or Baltimore and say, let's catch up. Because it's going to be time driving in the car, but it's not like driving on the Beltway. It's not like driving down 95 or the Turnpike. You know, this is beautiful pastoral. It's a scenic byway here in Talbot County. Mm-hmm. So if you can, like, just picture yourself again, great soundtrack, maybe some snacks. You're taking in, like, the great Rise Up coffee here in Easton. You're getting to eat a crab cake midday, and you're sitting and catching up with your best friend in the car.
Right.
And, you know, it's easy breezy driving, and you get to go into, you know, multiple galleries where you're going to run into artists who are painting on the streets, you know, new fresh stuff to talk about, and maybe you're taking home a memento from the day that both supports this art community that has been shelved for a year and desperately needs your support, and you're cleaning up your walls and getting something new on there. And at the end of the day, you're watching the sunset at Wilder Hotel in Tillman. I mean, like, I can tell you I know the girlfriends I would like to take on this trip.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, to me, I think it sounds really just sort of fun and dreamy. And the other thing that it allows for, Tim, that I don't want to freak people out by saying, like, we're all systems go, we're high octane plein air. I think these satellite galleries give people who are still being a little bit reserved or conservative for whatever reason it is, who really are not seeing themselves ready to go inside when it might be more crowded at the Quick Draw downtown, and really get to take in a whole lot of artwork. Because these little satellite galleries on a Tuesday afternoon are not going to be packed with people. You know, it's an opportunity for you to lay really low and, you know, kind of meander through the artwork across our county without having to put your head in a space where there are crowds. And I think that that's still important, even as I think we are all finding ourselves coming back to some kind of normal. You know, we're not all ready to be full on.
Right.
And I'm going to just drop some buyer advice nugget here, is that if you see it and you love it, then buy it, because it not only are the paintings going to move throughout all of the exhibits, but it might be sold and you might lose out. So
yeah, we're gonna no exhibition space is going to be the same 2 days in a row. So that's another thing. It allows people who live down in these communities like Oxford or Tillman, they should be going up and taking in the exhibition every day, because it's going to be refreshed every day with new paintings. We're making a Plein Air Easton bus that's going to drop off the new curated exhibition every day.
We've got a bus now?
It's not necessarily a bus. It's more like a trailer, but it sounds way better if we
No,
call
I love
it
the bus. I love it.
All aboard!
Hop on the bus.
So we're going to drive new artwork down, and you know what our pledge to our competition painters are is that we're going to make best efforts to get completed framed artwork in front of as many people as we possibly can while we have it. And so, you know, best efforts doesn't promise that every painting is going to go to every location. We can't make that promise, but we are going to try to prioritize paintings that are painted in a geographic area to make sure they're shown there. So if you paint a painting in Oxford, I want to make sure that the people of Oxford get to see it.
Mm-hmm, sure.
Or that the stakeholders of the Maritime Museum get to see it.
Right.
And again, that's a real shift from before too. The other thing that we're really doing that is a sort of vestige from last year is we're infusing a whole lot of artist demos. A lot of our competition painters are going to be performing demonstrations, and instead of all of those being in Easton, they're going to be in a lot of these different areas too. Oxford, down in Tillman, we're going to have some in Easton. So, you know, educational opportunities abound.
Yeah.
If you are a competition painter this year in 2021 at Plein Air Easton, I really implore you, if you do not understand these changes in terms of turning in artwork, I really want everybody to give some careful thought to their plans for painting. And I understand everything doesn't always go the way that you plan, but I'm really hoping that we can have some really great paintings right out of the gate to put in front of our community. It is how we hope to make sure that we retain the sales volumes that we have in the past. And again, it's going to take some thought. I don't think you should come to Plein Air Easton this year and think you're going to behave exactly the way you have before. We've really mixed it up a lot. And I think it's going to be fun and exciting, but that's my sort of messaging that I would give to you. You know, Dan Weiss from the Met in New York is going to be our competition judge this year. We're so excited to have him back. You know, you're painting for the big leagues right now in terms of who's going to be judging both our quick draw and
yeah, I think that's really cool.
Yeah. I want to go back to Tim, you know, it's like this competition, these events are not just for buyers, and they're not just for our competition painters. You know, I also think that if you are somebody who is interested in painting at all, or if you are a painter, you know, all the different arts groups, like, we are going to be so excited to see you again, and there are going to be plenty of opportunities to both learn and also paint. You know, we got the email yesterday that the Nocturne paint out is back on. We're going to have the quick draw registration open hopefully by next week. You know, you can come and bring your paints too, and learn, and again, push yourself back out there creatively, because I have to think that that's an issue. I have to think it's an issue in terms of like getting those creative energies flowing again. So I'm hoping that this can serve as a catalyst for a lot of painters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a great opportunity for anyone like that. I mean, either whether you're a competition painter or just a painter in general, you're exactly right.
I guess like one of the final things that I would would just talk about that's like exciting news for Plein Air Easton. Oh, I guess there's one more thing I should say too. I think that having the Armory space open all week is going to bring a real different vibe to the festival. I think that that's where our coffee and conversation dialogues are going to happen, hosted by fabulous Tim Wygant. And I think that if people have ideas for what they think the topics of those coffee and conversations need to be here post-pandemic, we'd love to hear about that, because I think that there are going to be a lot of people who are ready to have conversation and like, what should we be talking about? What are the hot buttons out there?
Yeah. I think you brought up a while ago, one of the other conversations we had, just you being able to talk about art, where you've been sitting in your house for a year, don't you kind of want to come out and like check out something to have a different conversation other than the Netflix show or the politics, or just forget all that stuff and sort of embrace Plein Air Easton this year. What are the dates again, real quick?
July 11th through the 18th, with the first event going off the July 10th. That's a ticketed event at the Meet the Artist event. Okay,
that's Plein Air Easton from July 11th to the 18th. The Meet the Artist event is on the 10th of July. And we'll talk about how to get tickets in a little bit, but Jess, before we get into that, I wanted to ask you about there's some new exhibitions going on at the Academy.
I think the one thing, and I won't get too in the weeds with it, but we certainly have been building a collection of agricultural paintings that we're using to tell the story of our agricultural landscape here, and really highlight and elevate the work of our farmers, which I think we all found so much more important during the pandemic when we were worried about food.
No farms, no food.
No farms, no food. This is the last year of our collection. We're going to exhibit it during Plein Air Easton in one of the galleries at the Academy Art Museum. We are going to have another big farm event. But an NPT is going to come down and cover it. So it's just, I think that, one of the big interesting things for me about plein air painting is how, plein air painting is like the art and community colliding. And, it is about the community being able to see their space through new eyes. It's about artists being inspired by this particular community. And I think, I encourage everybody to come out and take a look at that agricultural collection, because I think they've written a lot of interpretive dialogue with it too, in terms of really connecting, like, what are you looking at and why does it matter in the world of agriculture? And I just think it is sort of amazing and educational piece that is being created out of the body of work that's created at Plein Air Easton, and I'm so excited that we're like at a place where we're going to be ready to show it to everybody.
Marie, who came up with this idea? If you know, and Jess, if you have to answer that, that's fine. But who came up with this idea? And did it take farmers and art, without sounding like, close? It doesn't seem like something that would be a natural marriage, but the reception has been, I found, really awesome. And how did it get going?
This is really thanks to some really great partners. I would really credit Cassandra Van Hooser, who is she runs the Office of Economic Development and Tourism for Talbot County, but she's a farm girl at heart. And, I think that she really helped me realize how much focus Plein Air Easton was putting on the water, which is, I think, what a lot of sort of, especially come-heres in Talbot County, focus on. And the agricultural side of our county is something that, is really important.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It is. And, Shannon Dill, who works for the University of Maryland Extension Office, and certainly we've gained a lot of partners, the Farm Bureau, Farm Credit. But, Tim, you're right. It has been a long time coming. It's been a long evolution. I think at the beginning, it took a long time to convince the farmers that this was a good idea. As with most new partnerships, there was a lot of trust building that had to happen. Mm-hmm. But now, I've seen the farmer get choked up looking at the paintings that were created of his farm and his family's work. And it has been really meaningful, I think, to the artists who have made these connections with the farmers, for the farmers who are really feeling respected. I mean, their paintings of their farms are going to be in a museum that has national accreditation on exhibition. I mean, it is sort of a big deal for everybody. Mm-hmm. And they will be tools that will be able to endure as storytelling tools. So I just think it's kind of exciting.
And where can they see those for Plein Air this year?
On the second floor of the Academy Art Museum, and that's going to open right along with the Plein Air Easton competition, and we'll run the week afterwards as well at the Academy Art Museum. So people will have a chance to take a look at it. And after that, it's going to tour the country is the plan.
That's fantastic.
So I think it's going to be really exciting. And so we're going to have more kids stuff this year. We're going to have so much new stuff. It's pedal to the metal here at Plein Air Easton. We're back.
Everything is back here at Plein Air Easton. Well-deserved, congratulations for you guys on what you did last year and what's going to happen this year. We're back. And that's kind of what they said at the beginning. When we started the pandemic, just to kind of wrap it last March, they were like, well, maybe next summer we'll be back to normal stuff. And everybody's like, oh, my God, there's no way I'm going to make it. I'm going to, and they were kind of right, so.
It's kind of like being better than back.
I'm telling you, this summer is going to be crazy. It's all great stuff, It's taken a while.
Maria, I want that on my T-shirt this year. Better than back.
Better than back.
I'm really glomming onto that. It's great to be back talking to you guys too. I can't wait to start talking to artists again. I think that we've all been through a lot, and I'm excited. Is it excitement that I'm feeling? Optimism and excitement? Is that what this feels like? Oh my gosh! But I'm excited to be back back and engaged and talking to people. So I'm looking forward to making some more episodes happen and find out where people's heads are and what they plan to do and what's exciting out there. It's really nice to see your faces and to be back around this table with you guys. Yay! Plein Air Easton!
Plein Air Easton. It takes a lot of work, a lot of effort, a lot of attention to detail, and.
Tim, you talked about getting details and tickets. Of course, AvalonFoundation.org, PleinAirEaston.com are both great places to find out more about what we're doing. And if you see old or outdated information, I promise we're getting to it. But like I said, it's been pedal to the metal, and what we're doing is just making sure that we're going to have a kick butt event this year. So, so keep checking us out. Reach out if you need something. We're just so excited to see all of our collector and artist friends. I just think that, like you said, it's going to be a great year. And start thinking about it. Get those creative juices flowing. We want great art.
Yes, we do.
Great art. Thank you very much for listening. This is the Plein Air Easton Podcast.
Bye.
The Plein Air Easton Podcast is brought to you by the Avalon Foundation and was produced by Nick Richards. Our theme music was generously provided by Blue Dot Sessions, with additional episode music by Podington Bear. Remember to rate, comment, and subscribe. You can learn more about Plein Air Easton at PleinAirEaston.com.